CIS Countdown is brought to you by Canada Safeway. Canada Safeway is a proud sponsor of the 2011 Vanier Cup, November 25th in Vancouver.
And why do we start here with one of the University of Calgary's 4 championships? Well, we'll tell you on this edition of CIS Countdown. Peter Cannellan, the legendary coach of the University of Calgary, was inducted into the Canadian Football Hall of Fame. He was head coach for all 4 of those University of Calgary championships. And a matter of fact, in 13 seasons, he won 4 Vanier Cups, and none of his seasons were on the losing end. They were 500 or better. So he is a deserving inductee into the Canadian Football Hall of Fame. In addition to that, a player was also inducted, Eric Lapointe out of Mount Allison, for his outstanding years with the tiny university out of New Brunswick. He, in fact, set the record for rushing yards in a season with Mount Allison before he moved on to the CFL. Let's move on to games that are happening right now in the CIS, and let's start closer to where this will be contested on November 25th. Mr. Andrew Wadden, if you please.
The Canada West is back in action after a Thanksgiving turkey break. There were 3 games on tap this week as the playoff picture starts to take shape. Calgary was looking to move closer to clinching the top spot in the conference. Manitoba's trying to get back to 500, while UBC was looking to lock down a playoff spot. We'll begin with those 9th-ranked Thunderbirds who were playing host to the Regina Rams, who came in on a 2-game winning streak. It's 3-0 UBC late in the first half when Billy Green tosses up his 3rd interception of the year. Easy pick for Mike Kerr, who takes it down to the Thunderbirds' 48, and the Rams, they're in business. The next play, Zach Olenek airs it out downfield, looking for Brandon Owens, who comes up big and makes a fine play, outstanding catch to put Regina in the red zone. 2 plays later, and the Rams take the lead. Olenek goes back to Owens deep in the end zone. Brandon Owens looking like old school Terrell Owens. Another great grab, this time with 2 defenders on him. The Rams take a 7-3 lead into the half. 3rd Q and the Thunderbirds come to life. Green rolls out before finding his favorite target, Jordan Grieve, who then turns on the YAC yards to get UBC inside Rams territory. A few plays later, Green gets the ball out of his hand quickly, spotting running back Dave Boyd open. Boyd makes a nice adjustment, and the home side is back in front 10-7. UBC would add a field goal and give up a safety to lead 13-9 after 3 quarters. 4 minutes into the 4th, Green hooks up with Boyd again, this time from 25 yards out. Boyd's unaccounted for again, scoring his 2nd TD of the afternoon, and the Thunderbirds up their lead to 20-9. Next Ram possession, Olenek trying to get his team back in it, but instead he throws up the easy pick to LeVar Hayden, who gets his 2nd pluck of the game. He takes it down to the 10, but they would only get a field goal out of it, and that could prove to be costly. The home team now up by 14. Then Olenek trying to make up for his mistake, but Vivi Boshalev steps in front of the pass, takes it all the way to the house, which should make it game over, but not so fast. A T-Birds penalty takes the touchdown away, and again, they couldn't capitalize on the turnover, so the Rams still have some life. Olenek wakes up, he finds Jarrett, Janata over the middle, Double J with a stellar catch. Regina has it down to the UBC 17. They finally punch it in on Olenek's roll and throw to Mark McConkey. That capped off an 11-play, 82-yard scoring drive, and the Rams are down by just a touchdown with under 2 to play. But hold on, Regina elect to kick, and they get the ball back. Olenek gets them deep into UBC territory and hits none other than Owens, who gets to the 10-yard line with 10 seconds to go. Rams now going for the tie, and it's back to Owens at the back of the end zone, but it's Hayden who breaks it up with 2 seconds left. One last shot now for the Rams, who are trying to send it into overtime. Olenek looking for Double J, but it's nowhere close, broken up by T-Birds, and the home side hangs on for another nail-biting win at Thunderbird Stadium, clinching a playoff spot in the Canada West. Billy Green goes 19 for 37 for 273 yards and 2 scores, despite throwing those 2 interceptions. Zach Olenek with a huge game, tossing for 388 yards in the loss, but it's those 4 interceptions that are going to sting him and the Rams, despite the valiant comeback. Thunderbirds move to 4-2, while the Rams drop to 2-4 with just 2 games remaining on the schedule.
It definitely feels good to win that game. That's a load off our shoulders. I think that will allow our guys to relax a little bit. I think our guys, as much as we try not to focus on playoffs and all that kind of stuff, it's always in the back of your minds. And I really felt like in the first half, especially offensively, we were playing a little scared. You know, like we didn't want to mess it up. They thought they were in the playoffs. They just had to show up. And to their credit, they came out in the second half and in the third quarter put some points up right away and played a little bit better. You know, if it does, it feels way better before in 2 than 3 and 3 for sure.
It's back and forth. I think in the third quarter we had some opportunities and some chances, and you know, we had a fumble and we didn't execute as well down when we got into the red zone as we'd hoped to and would want to, and you know, so that hurt us. And then we did get some things going at different times in the game. So it's been challenging with new guys and young guys, and with kind of some wacky injuries that we've had this year. But I thought the boys played with a lot of character, and they played right till the end. I mean, we had 2 shots from the 7-yard line to tie it up, so I feel good about their character.
In Saskatchewan, battle of the top 10s. It's a second-best Calgary Dinos visiting the number 7 Saskatchewan Huskies. Blackout night at Griffith Stadium's Dinos QB Eric Daleski hooks up with Taylor Nill, who makes the sick one-handed grab along the sidelines. You gotta be kidding me. However, the Dinos would miss the field goal attempt. They lead 1-0 early on. Both offenses were struggling in the first. Trent Peterson once again getting the start under center for the Huskies. He gets picked off late in the first cue by Kevin Hafachuk. Rookie Johnny Marks then steps up, and after missing his first field goal of the season in the first quarter, he redeems himself with 3 points from 37 yards out. Calgary up 4-0. What is this, a hockey game? Jelani Gilbert-Norn is now in the game for the Huskies, trying to kickstart the O, but it just wasn't happening. He scrambles and finds Braden George, but George can't hold on. Now 7-1 Dinos. JGK trying to drive the Huskies downfield before the half, but he's sacked on second down, and it's 6-point Calgary lead at the break. At halftime, Brian Towers was honored for becoming the CIS all-time winningest coach, which he did a couple of weeks ago against UBC. Third quarter, Dinos threatening deep in Huskies territory. Steven Lambala turns it over. Bryce McCall recovers. Could this be the turning point? Not so fast. The drive begins in the fourth. JGK throws it up for Mike Edom. He returns it for a touchdown, a pick six. Dinos up 17-1. More like a beer league hockey score now. Late in the game, and Saskatchewan finally does something. Senior Nico Higgs blocks the punt, and Sean Dewick takes it for the touchdown. Huskies down 20-8. So there's still some life for the Huskies. JGK engineers a late game drive, rolls out looking for Mitch Stevens, who's wide open, but he drops it. It was just that kind of night for the Huskies offense. Calgary wins on the road for a 6th straight game. They're now 6-0. Saskatchewan drops to 500 at 3-3. Eric Daleski throws for 234 yards and no touchdowns. Kicker Johnny Marks nails 4 field goals on the night, while the Dinos got their pick 6 on defense from Eden. Meanwhile, the struggles continue at the quarterback position for the Huskies. Peterson got the start, goes 4 of 6 for just 46 yards and a pick before getting the hook and giving way to JGK, who didn't fare much better, going just 7 for 25 for 58 yards and 2 interceptions, one which the Dinos made him pay for. Manitoba was also in action over the weekend in the one other game in the CW. The Bisons romped to a 48-20 win over the winless Alberta Golden Bears at home. An easy day for quarterback Khalil Williams. He gets some help in the running game. Anthony Coombs busted out for a huge day, 226 yards and 4 TDs, including a 69-yard romp in the first. The win puts the Bisons back above the playoff ledger. Manitoba is now 3-3 and are right in the thick of the race in the Canada West. They're in third place over Saskatchewan as the Bisons own the tiebreaker. Calgary stays atop the conference. They are undefeated, of course. One more win or a UBC loss, and the Dinos will wrap up first place. The T-Birds, with their victory over Regina, are now in sole possession of second at 4-2 and are looking to host a playoff game for the first time in over a decade. Head over to the OUA, where the top team in the nation, the Western Mustangs, had a chance to clinch first place and a playoff bye. Ottawa and Windsor went down to the dying seconds, but we'll start in the KW. Number 6, McMaster on the road, looking for its 3rd win since 2002 over arch rivals Laurier. Pick things up in the final minute of the first quarter with the game tied at 3. Golden Hawks linebacker Michael Bosch with a thundering hit on Robert Babick. The Langley BC boy dropping the boom, which forces the Marauders to punt. On the ensuing drive, Laurier grabs its first lead of the game as Ronnie Pfeffer kicks his second field goal of the afternoon. Remember that, as it would be the G-Hawks' only lead of the day. McMaster kicker Taylor Kapinga boots a 20-yard field goal to tie the game, and then this 46-yarder to give the visitors back the lead, and the lone Marauders fan in the crowd, well, he's loving it. Third now, and McMaster takes control on its first drive of the half. Kyle Quinlan, back from suspension, connects with Brad Fochado for a 21-yard pickup, and 2 plays later, Quinlan finds Michael DeCroce in the end zone for the major, and that wraps it up for the visitors. DeCroce does a little shuffle celebration. He's happy, as he should be. The Marauders would put on another 9 points to take it 25-6. Quinlan tosses for 230 yards and 1 touchdown. DeCroce hauls in 5 catches for 89 yards and the 1 score. The win was McMaster's 4th straight. Other scores around the OUA, Western are still undefeated after topping Toronto 21-9. The Stangs did it once again without their top pivot, Donnie Marshall, who's recovering from an ankle injury he suffered 2 weeks ago. Tyler Varga and Nathan Riva grabbed 1 score each on the ground. With the win, Western clinches first place and a playoff bye. A barn burner went down in Ottawa. The GGs pulling out a 32-30 win over the Windsor Lancers on a last-second field goal by Matt Falvo. Colbon finishes 21 for 34, tossing 326 yards and 2 TDs, while Austin Kennedy completed 17 of 27 passes for 270 yards and 2 scores. With the win, Ottawa cement themselves a top 4 seed and will host a playoff game. Queens picks up their 5th straight win of the year, smacking Windsor 53-0. Ryan Gramberg was the star for the Gales, rushing for 240 yards and 4 touchdowns on the ground. Another blowout in Guelph as the Griffins beat up on York 51-2. They used 2 quarterbacks in the win. Chris Rossetti tosses for 2 scores, while Jazz Lindsay threw for 207 yards and 3 touchdowns. Jared Gardner led all receivers with 127 yards and a touchdown through the air. With the Mustangs win over the Blues, they've now wrapped up top spot in the OUA. The Marauders are the only a game back, but Western owned the tiebreaker after beating McMaster in Week 2. Queens and Ottawa sit tied at 3rd at 5-2, and it's been a remarkable turnaround for the Gales, who started the season at 0-2. Windsor sits alone in 5th at 4-3, while Laurier is back below 500. In Quebec, there was a lot of shifting after last week's upset win by Montreal over the previously unbeaten Rouge et Or. The Carabins and also the Vert et Or out of Sherbrooke were knocking on the door for top spot in the conference. We'll begin with those 5th-ranked Carabins who were playing host to the struggling McGill Redmen, who are still in search of its first W of the season. Midway through the first quarter, Carabins have to punt, but Pierre-Paul Jelena can't find the handle. Double P misses the ball altogether, and the Redmen jump on the pigskin and earn the turnover. Pure comedy from Jelena. But after going 2 and out, McGill is forced to punt, and this time it's Montreal's turn to put up the fence. They block the punt, it goes airborne, and William St. Laurent picks it up, and it's touché Carabins. St. Laurent takes it in for an 11-yard score, earning his first touchdown of the season. Montreal takes the early lead. Move ahead to the second, and the Montreal special teams are at it once again. Thomas Silva gets blocked for a second time, and once again, it's taken to the house as William Fontaine gets it. This time, he goes 19 yards for the major, and the Redmen can't seem to figure out what's going wrong. In the third, the Carabin special teams gets its 3rd block on the day. Anthony Cody, looking like Superman, coming off the corner to block Austin Anderson's 18-yard field goal attempt. And on that following drive, Montreal puts the game out of reach as Alexander Nadeau-Puis zips it to Alex Fortier-Labonte for the score. It's now 27-5, and it's high fives all around for the Carabins faithful. Nadeau-Puis tosses 171 yards and 1 touchdown, while J.C. Morin-Fanouf led the Carabins with 139 yards on 6 catches. But Redman wideout Bobby Michaelberg led all receivers with 145 yards and 12 catches and the 1 score. We'll head now to Sherbrooke, where the 4th-ranked Vert et Or were taking on the Concordia Stingers at home. Midway through the first, and Vert et Or are knocking on the Stingers' door. Jeremy Doyen-Rock stays calm in the pocket and finds a wide-open Simon Charbonneau, put 6 on the board for the men in Vert. But Concordia responds right back. Quarterback Reed Quest punches it in from a yard out. We got a tie ball game. Shift to the second cue. Terrence Morsink now behind center for the Stingers. He gets flushed out of the pocket and gets licked by Remy Julien Funk. The ball squirts out, and the home side recovers, which leads to this 30-yard field goal from William Doan. Vert et Or takes a 3-point lead. Fast forward to the third, and it's our man Ishmael La Bamba who picks up the ball on his own 25. He's off, leaving everybody in his dust, going 86 yards to pay dirt. And then Sherbrooke puts in the dagger. Rock finds Gabrielle Goulet, who trots into the end zone. 28-9 now for the Greenies. They go on to take it by a 20 spot. Rock throws for 200 yards and adds 2 scores, one of them to Heck Crichton candidate Simon Charbonneau, who had a quiet day by his standards, gaining just 34 yards receiving in the win. Stingers QB Terrence Morsink, taking over for Reed Quest, goes 12 for 26 for 134 yards in the loss. In the only other Quebec game, the third-ranked Laval Rouge Or put up 29 points in the third quarter to put Bishops to bed, beating down the Gators 57-9. Bruno Prudhomme tosses 251 yards and a touchdown. Sebastian Levesque goes for 131 yards on the ground and 2 scores. And Guillaume Rioux catches 4 passes for 115 yards and 1 TD. Take a look now at the Q standings. Laval remains on top at 6-1. Sherbrooke are also at 6-1 with their win at home, but the Rouge et Or hold the tiebreaker after beating Sherbrooke back in September. Montreal goes to 4-3 on the 2011 campaign. The Stingers are right behind Montreal at 3-4, while Bishops and McGill sit at the bottom of the pile. Let's pick up on the scores from the AUS now. St. Mary's is still undefeated in the conference after smacking down St. FX 37-18. St. Mary's QB Jack Creighton puts up 246 yards and 2 touchdowns. In Wolfville, the Acadia Axemen kept pace with their Atlantic rivals with a 40-10 win over the hapless Mount Allison. Kyle Graves throws for 176 yards and 2 touchdowns in the victory. Not too many changes in the standings. The Huskies are 5-1 ahead of Acadia based on the tiebreaker. The Axemen also 5-1, right on their tail. St. FX has just the 1 win, which they got against Mount Allison earlier this year, who keep its spot in the Atlantic basement, still in search of its first win in 2011. Well, Jimbo, as you just heard, it was another exciting week of action around the CIS. I will shut up now and send things back to you.
Thanks for that, and I think I'll have to shut up in about 10 seconds too. When we return, we'll take a look at the Regina Rams and how they've struggled through all sorts of quarterback problems. You are watching CIS Countdown.
There's a beautiful shot of downtown Vancouver, home of the 2011 Vanier Cup. Big game goes November 25th at BC Place. Still lots to be determined from now and then. If it's hard to believe, but the OUA playoffs actually start next weekend. Western certainly looking like a favorite there for the Vanier Cup in that bracket. This is CIS Countdown. I am Chad Klassen. A team that some people thought would be top contenders in the CIS is the Regina Rams. They came off a 5-3 year in 2010, lost a tough Canada West semi-final game to the eventual runners-up in the Vanier, the Calgary Dinos. Regina entered the new campaign with one of the best quarterbacks in the country in Mark Mueller, but the dream season has been anything but so far. It's been a roller coaster ride, to say the least, for Frank McChrystal and his crew. In total, they've used 4 different quarterbacks rather in 6 games. Not really a winning recipe, but it seems they finally found their guy. Here's the story of Regina's tumultuous year under center and how they're working through it to turn around the season. It's been a frustrating 2011 campaign, to say the least, for the Regina Rams. Led by 2010 Player of the Year Mark Mueller, they were ranked 6th nationally entering the season, projected to win the conference and be in the mix for the Vanier Cup. Hasn't quite worked out that way. Mueller separated his shoulder on the very first play of the year. He's gone. Then in the first half of week 2, backup Dylan Hart injured his back in Saskatoon, making way for third stringer Frankie Gray. But the true freshman struggled early, and the Rams suddenly found themselves in an 0-3 hole. With that disappointing winless start to the season, the Rams were put in a really tough spot without their top 3 quarterbacks to work with. Backed into a corner, they turned to a former receiver who's now the top guy in Regina. He's helped get him back into the playoff picture.
Olenek throwing into the end zone. Owens works back, grabs it, pulls it down. Touchdown, Regina Rams.
It's Zach Olenek who's now leading the charge in Regina. The second-year Ram has suddenly started 3 games under center after thinking he was going to be playing wideout.
I just had knee surgery done, so I was out for the first few games, and I was going to come back and play receiver, but you know, a few injuries happened, and since I played quarterback in high school, they kind of just threw me in the role, and I was happy to accept it. I love the quarterback position. You know, I like being the guy that makes plays, so I was happy with that. And then when I came to university, they kind of thought I was more of a receiver role, so stepped into that and did fine with that. But you know, things changed so fast.
Olenek was the top pivot in grade 11 and 12 at Balfour Collegiate in Regina, but the Rams wanted to use his 6'4" frame at receiver. Yet with a string of freak injuries, Olenek is getting his shot to prove he can play quarterback in the CIS, even though it's still a work in progress.
Yeah, I'm starting to get more comfortable with it, and every week's just more work because more things pick up. And you know, the team we got here is unbelievable. We have such a good team, so I just want to get in there and make plays and win games for the team.
The 19-year-old won his first 2 starts against Alberta and Manitoba before that last-second loss at UBC. The promise he's shown is giving his receivers like Brendan Owens a lot of confidence on offense.
He can read a defense quite well. Bernie's offense is complicated, so it's not easy. So having a guy in there that's experienced like Ole, he played receiver the year before, so he knows all the routes, he knows where people have to be, and he can make the throws, and we got the playmakers that can go get the passes.
Overall, the transition to Olenek as Regina's 4th option has gone as well as it could have for the Rams after the shock of Mueller's injury.
Well, I think it's always difficult because you get set back on your heels a little bit, and that's what happened, you know, for the first couple games anyway. And then you kind of have to regroup and understand that, yeah, you've lost a position, but you still have at any given time, you know, you've got 11 other guys on the offense and you've got 12 guys on the defense, and you have to play. So, you know, it's an adjustment, but we're working hard at it, and you know, we're still not out of it.
Working with 4 different QBs has been an adjustment for Owens, who's been with Mueller for his entire Rams career.
Losing a guy like Mark that you've played with for this is our 5th year together now, and having him go down, it was a big blow. The wind kind of went off our sails, and it took a while to adjust, and losing a couple more quarterbacks after that just added insult to injury. But we have a quarterback in place now that he can throw the ball, and we got the players that can go downfield and get it. We got a really good offense, and we got a chance to turn things around.
Olenek and the Rams have to win back-to-back games against teams they need to catch for the playoffs. First up is a home date against the Saskatchewan Huskies, who beat Regina 33-10 in Week 2. Then off to Manitoba for the final weekend with a chance to turn some heads with a former receiver leading the charge.
I'm still scared of this Rams team because I think they still have all the parts in place to make a run.
Wish the Rams all the luck as they try to make the final playoff push in the Canada West here in the final 2 weeks. Team that's already playoff bound is the UBC Thunderbirds. They actually punched their ticket to the postseason with a victory at home over Regina. It's been a turnaround year out in Point Grey, and a guy that knows all about revitalizing a team is Dan Smith. He's the great UBC quarterback that took a winless program and turned it into a Vanier Cup finalist in his senior season of 1978. Smith is now the president of the Thunderbirds Football Association that's working on bringing pride back to Point Grey. Jim Mullen took some time this weekend to chat with Smith about the program.
Alumni and community support is always so important to the development of a university football team. And joining me right now is the president of the Thunderbird Football Association, Danny Smith. Danny, when you take a look around the Canada West, you've got the Fifth Quarter Club in Calgary that really assists things there. You've got David Dubé, who's taken a lead role with the Saskatchewan Huskies. With that kind of support, it's not a surprise that those 2 teams are always 1 and 2 in the Canada West.
That's right, Jim. And you can go even further than the Canada West. As you go across the country, Queens and some of the other programs, one of the things we learned as we looked at the teams that keep getting to the Vanier Cup was that they're supported by a strong alumni and an independent organization that helps beef up their resources.
Now, when it comes to your organization, it's not solely focused on alumni, is it?
No, we're actually thrilled to have people that aren't just football alumni in our organization. They're just people who want to help Canadian college student athletes have a greater experience, and in particular UBC.
Now, when it comes to the Vanier Cup, it's a tremendous opportunity for UBC to take advantage of this from the football side. I know that you have a number of initiatives going. Maybe you can explain it to the people out there.
Yeah, you know, we're just so excited to have the Vanier Cup coming to Vancouver for the first time. And as an organization, we just thought it was a tremendous opportunity to do a couple of things. One is just to profile Canadian college football. It's the biggest game in the country in amateur football, and what a great opportunity for Vancouver and Vancouver fans and all British Columbia fans really to see that game. And for us, UBC is the CIS representative in Vancouver, and for us it's a great opportunity to put UBC back out into the public and into the community and raise the awareness about the program.
Now, there's two big things that you're doing. One of them involves kids in a camp, and the other involves a breakfast on the Friday morning, the day of the Vanier Cup. First of all, tell us about the camp.
Well, the camp we're really excited about. Glenn Suter runs a camp. It's called the Glenn Suter Football College, and the emphasis is really on coaching up young kids, their skills, and giving them some drills, and to become better football players, and to expose them to the Canadian college opportunities that might be there. And this is a reach out to kids in grades 8 to 10. Or 12 to 15. It's for high school and community kids. And really, it's designed to work on their skills and give them unique drills. And Glenn has put together a super coaching staff of Milt Stiegel and Matt Dunnigan and some other CIS and CFL greats to be at the camp coaching these kids.
And it's amazing that you got an SFU grad to be the headliner for this like Glenn Suter is. To the other side quickly, the breakfast. That is going to become a legacy event for UBC football, isn't it?
I think so. The breakfast gives us an opportunity to recognize some of the best in Canadian college football. This particular banquet, this particular breakfast is really about kicking off the day, and it's kicking off Vanier Cup. And also what's going to happen there is we're going to be recognizing the Coach of the Year for CIS, the Russ Jackson Award, which goes to the CIS football player that best demonstrates the attributes of football skill, academic skill, and more importantly, citizenship. So it's a real exciting opportunity there, and also the All-Canadians are going to be there. So we're kicking off the day of the big game with this breakfast, and from the breakfast, the legacy for us is a couple of things. One, just a broader awareness of Canadian college football, and the funds that are raised, the proceeds from that breakfast will go directly back into football scholarships.
Dan, thanks very much for this. I know we'll hear more from the TFA as we get closer to the Vanier Cup, and we appreciate your efforts.
Thank you, Jim. We appreciate the opportunity to talk about it.
Thanks a lot, Jim. It's now time for your CIS Top 10 football rankings. Not too many changes at the top of the list. The Mustangs are still on top for the second straight week following that 21-9 victory over Toronto without Donnie Marshall, of course. Calgary, with their win in Saskatoon, are second best, and Laval remains third after the blowout of Bishops on Sunday. There's some movement near the bottom of the top 10. UBC moves up one spot to number 8 after clinching that playoff spot over the Rams. Ottawa is now number 9 with the last-second win over Windsor. They'll be in the postseason. And at number 10, the Saskatchewan Huskies are reeling a bit after the home loss to the Dinos. They've lost 3 of their last 4 games, but still make it in this week. Honorable mention, by the way, going to Queens, winning their 5th straight game over the weekend with a shutout win over Waterloo. Brings us to the big games to watch for this weekend. In Ontario, everyone will have their eyes on Western and Queens, 2 of the hottest teams in the OUA. As mentioned, the Gales are riding a 5-game winning streak, and Western is attempting to finish off their undefeated season. In Quebec, Laval hosts Sherbrooke in a battle for first. Just a huge game there. Winner clinches top spot and home field advantage in the queue. And out west, the Canada West Game of the Week on Shaw takes you to Regina, where the 2-4 Rams host the 3-3 Huskies. That's all the time we have here on CIS Countdown. For everyone who's been working hard behind the scenes, I'm Chad Klassen. So long from Vancouver. We'll see you back here in 7 days. CIS Countdown is brought to you by Canada Safeway. Canada Safeway is a proud sponsor of the 2011 Vanier Cup, November 25th in Vancouver.